Hi, I'm Brian. I'm going to show you how to replace the stepper motors in your Chevy instrument cluster or Cadillac or GMC. It works the same way for all of them. So to get this far and have the cluster removed, I've got other videos on that. You can click my face and that'll take you to how to get this far. It'll open in a new window. So close that one and come back and I'll show you how to replace the stepper motor. You see I have a fork. I'm not here to eat lunch. I'm here to show you how to do this. The first thing you want to do is lay tape and mark where these are, their orientation. Or like I like to do, you line up tape, you can line up a picture, it's kind of the same thing. So what I'm going to do is take a picture of these and take a picture of these. Now you can identify a bad stepper motor because it's not working properly for one or not working at all. This one opted to just pin clear over to the side here. And you'll notice that this sounds terrible. It's really clicky. And then these are smooth. These are all working pretty much. This one is not. You step them all down until you can feel them kind of stop. You don't want to force it. They will twist on the pin. For example, I've got these all marked, we're all good to go, but watch this. See? And it doesn't take that much effort to make them do that, but I can feel that that's where it wants to stop. So that's where you stop, okay? And just take your fork and you twist it to the left. Risk damaging the old stepper motor as you do this, but if you're replacing it, then don't worry about it. And these two should be the same, you compare them in length, they are. So twisting it kind of gets things to break free and get moving. There we go, that's why we're twisting it to the left. Twisting it to the right, the shaft would move with it. Twisting it to the left, this moves independent of the shaft, so that's why we twist it to the left. So come in here. I did the first one's kind of slow. And doing them fast just to show it's not that hard. If you have a warm work environment, that's best. These are the stepper motors. We're going to do a light bulb on these two. This one's burned out and I believe this one's burned out. We might just go through and do all of them actually. This one actually looks pretty rough. Here is the instrument cluster and I'm going to just go through real quick how you replace a stepper motor. These are the stepper motors. The old ones that came off of this are marked with this marking. It says 2036.2, and the new ones, and what most of the other ones will say, is X27168. We're going to go ahead and replace the stepper motor. You can see I've already done a couple of these. I did the speedometer one, it says a 168, and I did these two here. We're going to go ahead and do this one right here. So what we do is just kind of reference it. You'll notice that there's pins on the back side of it, and they'll have a little circle and a pin and then 4 pins, and then this is the side that the needle goes on. So don't be worried that you're going to lose orientation or anything like that. We'll walk you through it. It's a piece of cake. Set it down gently. You're going to be sitting on the pins basically this way, so don't lean on it, bend them, or do anything like that. We've got a preheated soldering iron. What we're going to do is we're going to use a solder sucker and we're going to pull the solder off. Okay, so you can see the 4 pins that we have here. So I've got my solder sucker, I've got a clean tip on it, so I'm gonna heat these up and just suck the solder off. This does take a little practice, so if you don't get it on the first try, don't feel bad. So once you've got the solder pulled off of these, take a screwdriver. You'll notice that these are bent over from the factory. That helps hold them in place. You just want to get them so that they're pointing straight up. Ooh, hello. We're being gentle here. So this one's got a little bit of residual, so I'm going to hit that one more time. This one also. Turn the board over, and then what I do is I grab this kind of low and I just kind of squeeze it, and as I squeeze it, just rock it back and forth. Those plastic pins help to hold it in to some degree. That round one, see the one that's kind of black there. So we'll set that aside. We'll take our new stepper motor and plug it in. Let's line up the plastic. Now I buy these in 25 or 50, and so they're not real well protected, so make sure your pins are nice and straight. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 dots, and you just line up the big hole in the pin and just real gently line them up, and it'll take a little pressure, but go ahead and push that in. Take an old stepper motor and I'll put a little bit of solder on it, flux, and then I'll take my flux pen, just dab it. This is thicker, gooier stuff. I just go through and just touch each of the pins. The felt tip from the solder pen or flux pen is perfect for just getting on these little pins. Got pins and all kinds of tongue twisting things. I'll take a little length of solder wire and we'll go ahead and touch these in. Just heat that up, just hit it, make sure you get enough to go all the way around your first touch in. Like that. We've got fresh new solder going on there. Make sure I'm still in frame. I'm bouncing this thing a little bit. My support hand. Make sure it gets hot enough to really set in, but don't cook it. That's about perfect. That's about as good as you can do. So we're going to go ahead and do this one more time for kicks and giggles. Touch it, zap it, dump it. Touch it, zap it, dump it. Again, touch it, zap it, dump it. Touch it, zap it, dump it. I'm going to go back with my screwdriver and make sure that all of those pins are pointing up. They're not bent over anymore. Tip it, squeeze it. Flip this over so I can aim the new one. And make sure that my pins are all straight. So as I look at these pins, I'm going to make sure all my pins are nice and straight. It looks like they are. I'm going to go back to the board. I'll line up my big round plastic pin. Well, that one just jumped in there. It's the easiest one. So I put my finger in the middle of the pins in here and I squeeze. Just make sure that it's nice and seated. That'll help with the alignment and make sure that that is nice and straight. Again, with the solder pen, I'm just going to touch here. You don't have to dab each and every one of them, but it doesn't really hurt either. This pen has solder in it. It's a flux pen, not solder, it's got flux. But I just dip it in a little bit of my Radio Shack tube. It's this little guy. Just, I don't know, it just really works well. So I take my solder wire, touch, push, raise, touch, push, raise, touch, push, raise, touch, push, raise. Notice I got a little pause between push and raise. That just allows the heat to accumulate enough and the solder to spread. So we're in great shape. We've got all of our stepper motors replaced. Let's go on to light bulbs. I'm going to show you what this board looks like. I've already replaced a few of the bulbs, but this thing had just a whole bunch of the light bulbs burned out. So let's show you what that looks like in the car. So I have the instrument cluster plugged in. It's just the panel, it's just the circuit board. I've got all of my stepper motors replaced. So when I go to turn the key on, you see some things are lighting up and some aren't. I've already retouched all of these resistors here and here. So they're all good to go. but you can, I've replaced a couple of the light bulbs, or a few of them actually, but you can see this light bulb isn't, let's turn on the lights, make sure that your switch is maxed out. So you see they go dim, they go bright. So I've got a couple of bulbs here that are good, a couple here that are good, and that one's good. But as I get closer, you can see this bulb's burned out, this one's burned out, this one's burned out, this one also. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to replace the bulbs on these. You can see that this one's just an amber LED, it's not a light bulb. But these two have both been done, these two have both been done, that one's been done. But I still need to do all of these ones. The difference between a good bulb and a bad bulb. And you can kind of see these are black. But anyway, if you want, you can take a paint pen or something and then just touch the bad bulbs. But let's go through and show you how to do the bulbs. I was just going to show you, I've just got this pin on there like you see there. And these are kind of like your fuel pump plugs. You see that blue clip that comes out the back, and then through the front you can push in through the sides and tighten these pins if they need to be tightened in. If it works in this position, but then when everything's all done it doesn't work or doesn't light up, you can check your capacitors and see if they're blown. These actually look okay. You can see the X in them. This one's questionable. You can see the X a little better in it than you can this one. This one's perfect. But that's another possibility. But if those are good, you can check your pins. Sometimes the pin connection's bad. If it's been, like government vehicles that just patrol the desert or something, they tend to rattle, and the hot pins on this side tend to just relax, widened position from the rattling under heat. Now I want to draw your attention to the wires on either side of this thing. You've got a wire that's right here, and you've got another one that's right there. Those are the two sides that you need to get to. It doesn't matter positive and negative on an incandescent bulb like this. If you're going to switch to the LEDs, then you need to make sure you get your positive and negative correct. It'll take some probing to do that while it's on the vehicle. So I'm going to touch the solder on this side, and while I do that, I'm just going to apply some pressure there. And then I'm just going to keep rolling the same direction. That's the easiest way. Touch it from underneath and get that pulled out. Once you have your bulb pulled out, I clean the tip on my soldering apparatus. But basically you just take this and pull it out like that and discard it. The new bulbs, at least the ones that I've ordered in, they basically look like a daddy long leg spider. So we just just fold them out to the sides like this. Align it with your little receiver. You see the wire goes into the little slit there. Try to stay in frame the best I can. You just push it into the bottom, give it a little squeeze. If you don't get them into the bottom, they'll be crooked and it'll be hard to put your cover back on. Just aim them straight down. Just kind of pull them into the sides there. Okay, so you just pull them into the sides like that. Take a pair of scissors and leave a little bit of a gap. You can see that I'm holding the scissors back with these fingers. So you kind of get an idea for it, but you don't want these to be able to touch. I'm going to take our little flux pen and we're just going to touch each of them. Don't touch all the way across, because then you don't want the solder to go across and short your board. We're going to set this aside for now and get a solder wick. See that we have here, and we're going to go through and we're going to clean both of these contacts that we had there. We're going to pull off the old solder. Just kind of scrub and wipe that. And then the same scissors that we cut the daddy long legs off, we're just going to take those and snip this and just wing it out of the way. Take your new solder wire, just touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift. This one I didn't get long enough, so it wasn't shiny, but that's okay, because we're going to get right back in there with the light bulb and we're going to touch it down. So it's going to sit too high, it's going to be crooked and obnoxious. Just aim your corner for the middle of the solder puddle you just made. touch, wait, lift, go to the other side and do the same thing. Make sure to push down with enough pressure to get it flat. Like I said before, that's a close tolerance between the stepper motor and the light bulb. Let's do another one, shall we? So we got that one done. Let's do this guy. When you look at the old bulbs, like I said before, you'll notice that they're dark on the tip, and that'll help you to know that it's not been done yet or that it's burned out. And if you really want to know if it's burned out, say you can only find so many of these at Radio Shack or off a junkyard car or whatever the case may be, you can always plug it in and test it. Alright, moving right along, you're going to touch this, roll it back, touch the other one, roll it back. Take our bulb and just pull it out, set it aside. Get our new daddy long leg spider bulb and just pull the legs, make sure they're not twisted or crossed. So we've got our wires and we know that they're not crossed. We're going to take them, line up our little slots here, push it in nice and firm, pull our wires straight down like that. Take our scissors, stand them off a little bit. Make sure your daddy long legs don't wind up laying across any of these electronics. I'm going to pinch it together like that. I'm going to take our little flux pen, I keep calling it the solder pen. Everything that I solder with is a solder something in my mind. I'm going to set that aside and then go back through with our solder wick. Got your solder iron, solder wick, solder sucker. Just going to clean that off. Take our scissors, we'll just trim that off the board, off camera. Take your solder wire. Bulbs are actually fun to do. Stepper motors are a little bit tricky. These are actually pretty fun. Alright, so we got our fresh solder in there. If you're across any of these, I think you're good to go. I just look at how it was before. It leaves a little mark as you pull the old bulb and socket off. So I just go for those. And these, you can't really mistake them because I use so much solder, it's hard to miss. Get that lined up, sink it. Go to the other side, sink it too. I can hear my little baby daughter. And there you go. That's how you replace the bulbs. So one of the light bulbs you're going to see is for that green thing. That's for if it's a stick shift telling you to shift for better fuel economy. But with this one, it's an automatic transmission, so you're not going to see anything to that effect. So we got all kinds of Christmas lights going on here. You'll notice that this one's not lighting up right here until I signal. And the same thing with this one until I signal. And that one that I replaced, I probably didn't need to replace because it was for the upshift light. Just not going to need that. If you go to do the brights, you can see that's LED operated. So anyway, we look really good. All of this stuff's illuminated really well, and that's these guys right here and here, and all the lights work really well because we put new bulbs in, and all of our speedometer and everything else is going to work really well because we have all new stepper motors. So we're in great shape. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together the rest of the way. So we take our, what do you call this, a bezel, and you put it over the circuit board. What I like to do is just look at the needle here on the speedometer and then maybe look at this one here for the tachometer and just kind of coach it in through the hole. Start up there, come down to here, just get these all lined up. So take your reference material, whether it's the tape and the pencil mark that you did like a lot of people like to do, or if you took a picture of it from before, and basically just take your needle and I just stick them straight up, just because why not. Look through the hole, make sure that it's on there, push it down. Be gentle with it, you don't want to ruin any stepper motor. So notice, you'll notice it doesn't go click, click, click. It's nice and smooth. So what you want to do is you want to twist it on that shaft until you're in the position that matches what your picture is or your tape is or whatever. I take a picture because I'm just that stubborn. If you do take a picture, make sure that if it's at an angle this way, that your head's at an angle, so it's basically the same. The smartphone's just so smart, it's just being a pain in the neck. Alright. Leave a little gap, just like that, and go to my next picture. Goes that one. Expand that out and look at these here. So now I'm lining these up so that they're the same as that, and that way my readings will be in calibration with what they are reporting to be. Alright, so that's nice and smooth. And just go back. So that one's just right across the 6. Perfect. So as long as you're a little bit clockwise from where you need to calibrate it to, you're in good shape, because that's right where the new ones are. See? So that one needs to be right about there. Might be a good idea for you to plug it in and test it in this position. They're so easy to pull off. The only hard part is just these two underside ones. So I don't know, I wouldn't really worry about it. If you want to do any cleaning or dusting on this, now would be a good time, but of course you know how to get in there for the next time if you need to. It's a nice thing about doing this yourself instead of having somebody else do it. So you don't have to wait for the shipping. You don't have to, stress about, there's some stuff to stress about, but if you want to get back in there and change something, it's easy because you just did it. You know how now. That's kind of an empowering, fun thing. Alright, so we'll take a paper towel or something. Take this guy, blow it out. Cling, cling, cling. Alright, we are looking good. There is our remanufactured cluster ready to rock. Go throw it back in the vehicle and test it out. So we went from having the speedometer just be pegged all the time to having it work. That's an oil sending unit or a short in the wire that's grounding out on something. So you watch that speedometer needle, I'll watch the road, the driveway, and you see it's working pretty good. We come to a stop, drops back down to 0. All the displays working, looks really good.